Hello, this is Rozz from Mash.ie and this is episode 10 of our Mash lockdown. There's a hashtag for it, Mash lockdown, all one word, and this video will be available on IGTV, maybe watching it on that, or on YouTube. I'm going to continue speaking about remote learning and different apps or different tools that teachers and parents might use to continue the learning at home. Zoom. Everyone's talking about Zoom. It really took off. I was vaguely aware of it before the COVID-19 outbreak, but I'm really aware of it now because my friends have been using it. I've been using it at staff meeting. I've been using it with my class and so on. So I thought I would give you a little overview of it, and I've actually got 8. Bit of a random number, but 8 very cool things that I've been doing with it as a teacher that you might decide to use. Okay, so what is Zoom? First of all, it's a hybrid classroom. It's effectively a classroom, obviously, but it's online. We know that it's online. You can set up either a meeting or a webinar. We're not going to look at the webinars because they cost money. We're going to look at the meetings function, which is free. You can have a meeting for up to 40 minutes and you have to have 3+ students. That's the only criteria for keeping it free. So what you can do is set up a classroom. First of all, you can collaborate. Your students and yourself can annotate. So it's like a digital whiteboard you could set up. Like, just think of the things you could do with maths, Irish, English with that. But you can also share your own screen as well. So it's very handy for that. I want to get over number one. I want to talk about housekeeping. So there's various, when you're starting a Zoom classroom and you're setting one up with your class, I would definitely go through the housekeeping beforehand, before you even start. So you're going to send that out either in a message or an email, or you might send a separate video, but you're going to look at things like, how do we behave? How does it work? So number one, I would suggest as a teacher that you mute everyone upon entry. So they cannot speak, they cannot use their audio, and you can change it in settings that they're unable to unmute themselves. So they will remain unmuted, nice and quiet. Could be useful for certain children who like to talk a lot. A bit rude though, wouldn't it be, to unmute them if they talk a lot? But yeah, so you can set that up in the settings that they just stay unmuted until they raise their hand or until they give a message to that they want to speak, and then you can unmute specific students. That is a really handy way to go about it. Also, make sure that you tell the students that it's a quiet environment. So they need a quiet area to have a Zoom classroom. They're not going to set it up with this television, stuff going on in the kitchen, dogs barking, things like that. So that's a little bit of advice for you there. It is recommended, having read about this and looked into Zoom, that you let the children or let your class have a bit of small talk. Let them have their banter for maybe 5 minutes. They haven't seen each other in a while. They want to catch up. Similar to a class, when my class come in the morning, let them have a few minutes chatting and then it's down to work. You don't even need to listen to that, to be honest with you. You can just let them chat away using the chat feature, which is at the side, and they can type it in if they like, or you can let them just chat. So it'll be very noisy for a couple of minutes, tell them you're going to set a timer, and then you'll come back and you're going to start the real class, the real teaching. Another useful thing you can do, because I suppose looking after a Zoom classroom as a teacher is it's a higher level than just recording a video like I'm doing now. So there's potentially more things that could happen. So what you can do to use Zoom is to record a session. So you could record a digital whiteboard, a piece of paper, a textbook, so you annotating on it, writing on it, and talking over that, record that, and then you could share that with them. So that's a useful kind of low risk strategy for teachers starting out with this. They have a really cool feature in Zoom. I'm on number 3 now, actually. A really cool feature in Zoom is called the waiting room. So you can put certain students or all of them into a waiting room to a ready to start class, and then you can let them come in from the waiting room one by one. That's a really kind of cool feature. You can also remove students. Now, I would only remove students if I'd made it very clear at the beginning why they were being removed. I use Google Classroom normally in the physical classroom when this whole COVID thing wasn't happening. I would say that if they were being inappropriate, saying silly things, off the point, if we were talking about Irish and they were just talking nonsense, putting up silly inappropriate videos, I would mute them. So it's the same for this. You might need to remove a student, but you let them know why and how. So once, twice, 3 times, one warning, and so on. And you tell them they can only be let back in and they can only be unmuted. I will be telling them when their parents have got in touch with me. So I would actually text the parents or email them or whatever and let them know the behaviour of their student. Okay, so hopefully we won't have to do any of those things, but you know, it could potentially happen. Another useful thing might be a check-in, which I'm hoping to use it for once a week, a little simple circle time check-in. And with any form of learning, you're going to let the children know what is going to be happening in the class. So don't just randomly open up a Zoom classroom. I'd recommend that they know what the focus is going to be. It might just be a 5-minute session. And we say, we do circle time normally in our class, so let's have a sentence starter. So let's start with, my favourite colour is. They're very low risk strategies if you're talking about circle time for children. They don't have to give that much. So you don't want to be starting off with sentences like, this is how I feel about COVID, because you have to be psychologists to deal with things like that. So you might move on to things like that over the few weeks and so on. But at the minute you're starting off with, my favourite food is, today the exercise I did, one thing I did at the weekend. But again, you'll be sharing that with your children beforehand so they can actually prep, get ready and practice it. So you keep it really learning focused there. You might choose to use Zoom for meetings with parents, quick chat, that's up to you. You could just organise a meeting with one parent. You also can use Zoom you might use it for small groups. So if you're an SET, special education teacher, you could actually set it up with just 3 or 4 students for maths and have a 10-minute session on a specific area of maths or English or Irish or any area that they were struggling on. A really cool feature of Zoom, and I haven't heard of many teachers using it in Ireland yet, is the video breakout room, where you can set up a number of video screens. Now again, this is a higher level of, competence and confidence might be needed as a teacher using this for tech, is that they have a video breakout rooms. You might have 2 or 3 different groups working and chatting on different things. That's a lot to manage. So I recommend you're very comfortable with using the basic features of Zoom before you kind of progress to something like that. And the last thing I have to say that would be really cool for Zoom, particularly now, is you can add a co-host. So you could add a SET teacher or any teacher to your meeting or to your lesson. And that's kind of normalizing the situation more, so the children can see the 2 teachers that they normally work with on the screen, and it just gives continuity. It makes the children feel safer about their learning and about the Zoom classroom setup, this hybrid classroom that we're speaking about. They were 8 very cool, funky features that Zoom has for educators, for classrooms, that you might choose to use one of them, maybe some of them, and maybe adapt those. I'd love to hear if you're using Zoom. I'm going to try and use it this week myself, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, listen, thank you so much for listening to me. I hope you're keeping safe and washing hands and staying at home. Fanawalia. This is Rozz and from Mash.ie, and this is our Mash Lockdown episode 10. Series, and you'll find us on IGTV or YouTube, Mash.ie, and please share this with fellow teachers, fellow educators all over the place. Thanks so much. Talk to you later.